So picture this, a huge tech summit, right? It was meant to be this massive coming out party for India as a global AI superpower. And, well, it did make headlines, just for all the wrong reasons. Let's get into what actually went down.
Okay, so first, let's really set the stage here. This wasn't just any old conference. The India AI Impact Summit was meant to be, well, monumental. It was basically a declaration saying, hey world, India is a major player in AI, and not just for itself, but as a leader for the whole global south.
And right from the start, at the inauguration, you had Prime Minister Narendra Modi setting this really powerful, optimistic tone. He made it clear, this is not just another tech conference. This was about national pride. It was about showing off Indian talent and innovation to the entire world. So yeah, the stakes, they were incredibly high. And the goals? Oh, they were just as massive. We're talking about an event billed as the world's biggest AI summit. I mean, they had huge names there. Think Sam Altman, Sundar Pichai. The ambition was literally to shape global AI policy, but from the perspective of the global south. You can imagine, expectations were through the roof.
But then, the doors opened, and almost immediately, that huge, grand vision slammed right into a very, very chaotic reality on the ground. And this quote from a startup founder, it just brings the whole thing back down to earth perfectly. You've got leaders on stage talking about global policy, and at the same time, entrepreneurs on the ground are dealing with, well, their demo products getting stolen from a place that was supposed to be a high-security zone. It's just wild.
So what exactly caused all this chaos? Well, a huge part of it comes down to one number, 70,000. That's how many people showed up, and that number just blew past all expectations and completely swamped the venue. I mean, this wasn't just a popular event, it was a full-blown logistical nightmare just waiting to happen.
And that massive turnout, it led to this domino effect of failures. I mean, a complete cascade. You had massive queues snaking around the building from 7 a.m. The Wi-Fi at a tech summit was terrible. Even the food stalls only took cash. Can you imagine how frustrating that is for international visitors? And maybe the craziest part? Some founders were literally locked out of their own booths.
And listen to this quote from another founder. It just hammers the point home. He says, "Gates are closed, so I could not access my own booth." Just imagine that for a second. You travel all that way for the world's biggest AI summit, you set up your whole display, and then you can't even get in? The frustration was just boiling over, and you bet social media lit up with stories just like this.
And as if all that logistical chaos wasn't enough, another story started going viral. This one was about, well, authenticity. Apparently, a university was accused of showing off a Chinese-made robotic dog and trying to pass it off as their own invention. So on top of everything else, you now have this layer of embarrassment.
Okay, so with everything going completely off the rails, you have to wonder, how did the government and the organizers actually respond to all of these complaints?
Well, India's IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav did come out and offer a public apology. But you got to listen closely to what he said. He's like, if anybody has faced any problems, my apologies for that. But then he immediately pivots, framing the massive crowds as a good thing. He called the response phenomenal. So it was this classic attempt to reclaim the narrative, right? Basically saying, yeah, it was chaotic, but that's only because it was so successful. So what you end up with are these two completely different stories of the same event. You've got the official narrative, which is all about phenomenal energy and success. And then you have the reality for so many people who are actually there, which was just utter chaos and rank mismanagement. That disconnect, it was huge, absolutely stark.
And no surprise here, that huge disconnect did not go unnoticed. The summit's failures pretty quickly turned into fuel for a big old domestic political firestorm.
So on one side, you had the opposition Congress Party just slamming the event. They called it a disorganized PR spectacle and said it damaged India's reputation on the world stage. But then the ruling BJP fired back, basically dismissing it all as routine politics. They said the opposition was just chasing headlines, while the government was actually trying to fix things and, celebrate the event's huge scale. And just like that, the tech summit was officially a political football.
All right, so let's zoom out. What's the big takeaway from all this? If we look past the chaotic headlines and the political blame game, what are the real lessons we can learn from this whole affair?
And that really brings us to the crucial question, doesn't it? Did all the chaos completely overshadow the actual substance of the event? Because the narrative definitely shifted. What was supposed to be a story about India's AI innovation, well, it turned into a global cautionary tale about how not to run a mega event.
But look, the flip side is that these failures offer some really clear, actionable lessons. It's not just about logistics, it's about closing that gap between huge ambition and on-the-ground execution. Experts have pointed to some obvious fixes, things like having a single integrated command center, or using tech like crowd heat maps to know where to put water and food. And for goodness sake, you've got to nail the tech basics, right? Like have backup Wi-Fi and be transparent with live updates so people aren't just left wondering what's going on.
And all this leaves us with one last big question to think about. See, the India AI Impact Summit wanted to be two things at once: a massive, impressive spectacle and a place for serious, substantive discussion. The problem was, the spectacle ended up completely torpedoing the substance. So the question for the future of any event like this is, how do you balance those two things? Is it even possible to have a world-class event that's both inspiring and just fundamentally well-organized? That's the real challenge this whole story leaves us chewing on.